Hi guys, this is Mr. Tan, and we are continuing with e-business and e-marketing. And today we're going to cover, communication characteristics, managing a digital campaign, and online and offline communications. Session learning outcomes includes, assessing the difference in communication characteristics between the digital and traditional media, identifying the main success factors in managing a digital campaign, understand the importance of integrating online and offline communications, relate promotional techniques to methods of measuring site effectiveness. So, in terms of e-communications, continuous e-communications activities, long-term use of e-marketing communications intended to generate site visitors for customer acquisition, such, as search engines, affiliate marketing, and online sponsorship and retention. For example, e-newsletters and marketing. And the whole purpose about e-commerce and e-marketing is that they are all interlinked. And as we see and we progress further down the e-business and e-marketing, you'll see how they're integrated, and you'll see how we're looking at the top end. We're trying to get X number of thousand impacts. So how many thousand impacts can we get? And if those thousand impacts are going to attain a cost, then what is the cost per thousand impacts? And then that is really the first stage in terms of linking this all the way down to chain in order to get an ultimate sell. But we'll be looking at this further down the slides. Digital media channel, online communication techniques used to achieve goals of brand awareness, familiarity, favorability, and to influence purchase intent by encouraging users of digital media to visit a website where they will engage with the brand or product and ultimately purchase online or offline through traditional media channels such as by phone or in store. So, even though you may search online and you may actually click on these web pages to gain more information, you may not actually buy it online. You may search, you may look at a variety of different things. But again, it comes back down to how many times do people need to see something before it filters down to visiting to a website, and then opportunity of sales, and then the percentage of people who are going to actually buy that product. So it all might sound a bit confusing at the moment, but ultimately, as we go down, you'll understand more. So, but people don't always buy on the website. Sometimes people go and buy their products in store. So hence offline through traditional media channels such as by phone or in store. Referral referring site, the source of a visitor to a site delivered via a digital media channel. Typically a specific site, e.g. Google AdWords, or media site, or an individual ad placement on the site. So this is, if we take the Google AdWords, this is the pay per click. So you would set up a business account, and you would then put in your credit card details, and then have a certain amount to spend, maybe you want to spend per month, and then on that amount you can, on the key AdWords that consumers go to search for your specific product, then on that keyword you can bid for it, and the higher you bid is the higher you go up in terms of the AdWords. And but other people can also bid and outbid you in terms of the amount they're paying per click on each AdWord. Digital media, various forms: electronic data processing, digital media, video equipment. All these kind of things kind of spring to mind when you're thinking about digital media. So the characteristics of digital media: push to pull. In contrast, many digital marketing activities like content, search, and social media marketing involve pull media and inbound marketing, pulling this in. Pull media and inbound marketing. The consumer is proactive in actively seeking out a solution and interactions with brands, and are attracted through content, search, and social media marketing. But when we look at the traditional media, such as TV, print, radio, are push rather than pull. So these are push media as one-way streets where information is mainly unidirectional from company to customer, unless direct response elements are built in. You know, push media communications are broadcast from an advertiser to consumers of the message who are passive recipients. From monologue to dialogue to trialogue. So, creating a dialogue through interactivity is the next important feature of the web and digital media, which provide the opportunity for two-way interaction of the customer. Interactivity, the medium enables a dialogue between the company and customer. So here we see the trialogue, the interaction between the company, customer, and other customers facilitated through online community, social networks, reviews, and comments. So, people may have bought your product and then placed, on terms of a site review and product review in terms of what they thought about your company, of your products. This can affect other people. Social networks, people write about what they feel that they've experienced from your company. But even the interaction where people are now emailing the information across to the company to actually find out more information, or if there's a contact number there to call up for the customer service helpline to find out additional details. From one to many to one to some and one to one. So we're becoming more and more specific, one to many, one to some, and now one to one. So traditional push communications are one to many, from company to many customers, often the same message to different segments and often poorly targeted. And when you're using mass communication, I think that one famous author said, "I know my advertising works, I just don't know which half." And this is the point, because when you're doing mass communication, and you might now think about the AIDA model: awareness, interest, desire, and action. You're thinking about, how do I create awareness in the marketplace? Well, if you're doing mass media in TV, on newspapers, national newspapers, national billboards, well, then you're targeting all sorts of people. Some people it may be relevant to, and other people it may not be relevant to. With digital media, one to some, reaching a niche or micro segment becomes more practical. E-marketers can afford to tailor and target their message to different segments through providing different site content or email for different audiences through mass customization and personalization. And we see this, we're going to see some examples later, but we see this in the media all the time. And, customizing the message really means reviewing your marketing strategy. Your marketing strategy in terms of your segmentation. Well, how are you segmenting the market? You're segmenting the market by demographic variables, geographic variables, psychographic variables, and behavioralistic people's behaviors. And then within those segments and the different variables of those segments, who specifically are you targeting? And then the next stage there is, when you're targeting specific groups within those segments, how are you positioning that message? How do you want your company to be seen by those target markets? And with digital media, this allows you to be more targeted to specific types of people. Mass customization, the creation of tailored, marketing messages or products for individual customers or groups of customers, typically using technology to attain the economies of scale and the capacity of mass marketing or production. So mass customization, again, very, very, very important. Personalization, web-based personalization involves delivering customized content for the individual through web pages, emails, or push technology. So even if you think about some companies like Tesco's have customers' details in terms of the club card. And if you sign up to club card and you swipe your club card every time you shop, then Tesco's will know what you're buying, They will know your name and address. They know your email address. They know your postcode, so they can classify you by postcode classification. They know the frequency of your purchase, the items you buy, and the price points that you buy. So really, if they have a special offer on a specific product, they could then email you with specific promotional, you know, promotions targeted towards specific products that they know that you buy, or if they've seen you go on certain websites and then that they know you've been looking at this type of product, they could then link up that type of technology to offering you a similar type product that they might stock. Even if we think about the presidency in the US and we think about the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, the Democrat Party obviously with Joe Biden and the Republican Party with Donald Trump. If we think about in the state of Florida, well, in the state of Florida, Donald Trump gained a lot of Mexican and Caribbean Mexicans and Colombian type votes, and yet you would think that with Donald Trump building the wall, with the immigration, you would think that Mexican people wouldn't want to vote for Donald Trump. However, what the Republican Party did quite well was to put out kind of disinformation and fake news. So they would target obviously those communities, Mexican communities, Colombian communities, and Brazilian communities that reside in Florida. That now there were a large number that had increased over the last 10 years, and they targeted them with specific information in terms of what they wanted to do for them, but also with disinformation in terms of what Joe Biden was connected with in terms of the Chinese, in terms of communism, and in terms of various other dictators around the world. So this would then have an effect from a twofold perspective. One, it kind of reinforces the message that they should vote for Trump in terms of what Trump was offering, and Trump by 2016 to 2020 had invested more and more and more money into those communities in Florida, so it just didn't stop there. And also by putting out disinformation, it stopped other people who possibly would or would be on the fence and may vote Democrat, wouldn't vote because they really didn't know where Joe Biden stood. So again, these are specifically targeted campaigns through specific media channels targeted at specific groups of people to achieve a specific objective. And this has been shown to be very, very effective. And even if you look at Florida, Donald Trump won that by a huge amount. If we think about Tesco's, and I mentioned before about Tesco's, Tesco's are using Facebook, using LinkedIn, they're using letters that they send to your house because they know who you are. If you've got Tesco Club Card, you know what you buy, how much you buy, how often you buy. They text you on your phones because they've got your phone with special offers, and they even email you with special offers, so they can target you with specific ranges of products, and they can see if you link in cross-platform advertising where they look at what people have been searching on and then use that information together with classification of residential neighborhood types. They can work out what type of products you might look to buy and therefore offer you those and present those to you specifically. Likewise, if we look at Facebook, Facebook have created giving businesses the capabilities to target users on a platform based on their interests. It provides users with only relevant ads based on their preferences, therefore looking at behavioral segmentation. It doesn't really bombard them with irrelevant stuff. In this way, they are able to build content and ads that the users really truly value, so really specifically targeted at specific types of people who are going on that specific web page to look for this specific product or interest or behavior. So again, if you look at Facebook, again, this allows you, the digital media marketing, to use these platforms at, with businesses targeting customers with preferences and interests. Again, a targeted approach. And then if you add in a positional strategy as well, you can then differentiate yourself, against your competitors. So this, figure illustrates opportunities for mass customization, as interaction occurs between an organization O. So we think the organization O, communication a message M to customer C for a single step flow of communication. It is apparent that for traditional mass marketing in a single message M1 is communicated to all the customers C1 to C5. But when we look at the internet as the medium, really allows for one two-way communication, and it also allows for different messages to be used, and different messages using the same medium, and more segmented and more targeted messages to get different messages to specific types of customers. Therefore, really, hitting home the message in terms of what you're trying to do, at a target audience, who are going to be mainly interested in what you're talking about. From one to many and many to many communications. So, if we look at digital media, also enables many to many communications. Hoffman and Novak 1996 noted that new media are many to many media. Here, customers can interact with other customers via website, in independent communities, or in their own personal websites and blogs. We will see in the section on online PR that the implications of many to many communications are a loss of control of communications, requiring monitoring of information sources. But it opens more opportunities to reach out to influencers to expand them. And here's the thing, because you got now people viewing your site, people ranking your site, or if you're hospitality, putting on TripAdvisor if they liked it or disliked it, and so on and so forth. So really, your PR has to be spot on in terms of what you're doing. And if you are also monitoring these other many-to-many communications, then you'll be able to react and see what your customers are saying, and adjust your processes and practices and products to meet your customers' needs, and also to send out your own PR to state what you're doing. State how you've overcome things, state the customer service that you're providing, and so on and so forth. So again, this is really another opportunity to reach out to influencers and expand reach. From lean back to lean forward, digital media are also intense media. They are interactive, lean forward media where the customer wants to be in control and wants to experience flow and responsiveness of their needs. First impressions and devices to encourage the visitor to interact are important. If the visitor to your site does not find what they are looking for immediately, whether through poor design or slow speed, they will move on, probably never to return. Okay, so again, very, very important to look at the visitor flow, and to look at how much time it takes, and to even look at the design in terms of your website, from the customer searching for what they want, determining what they want, and then adding more products if they want to, or going to checkout and then completing the sale, because customers don't want to be on a website for hours, and if they are, then it would put them off, and they will leave that site and go to another site and buy it where it's more easy to buy. Pay for performance communications. The wastage from traditional media buys can be reduced online through advertising models, where the advertisers only pay for response cost per click, as pay per click search marketing, or a lead or sale in an affiliate marketing. Always on communication. Continuous investment in paid, owned and earned digital media to engage prospects and customers and meet purchase instant as they research products through search, social media, and published sites. Always on communication, very, very important. Real-time marketing and public relations, PR. Brands develop an agile, proactive approach to PR. Content marketing and advertising to participate in current news and trends to help increase their visibility and influence through positive brand mentions. They also develop a reactive approach to response to negative brand mentions through social media reputation management. In the old days, in the 1990s, you didn't in the early 1990s you didn't have the internet, and all this latest technology was being developed. And if you wanted to do a PR campaign as a manufacturer, for example, and you were selling your product to retailers and you wanted to get the brand name out, so I was working for Metro Products and we wanted to get the marketing out for the mechanical steering wheel lock, stop lock, and we were selling it on to the retailers, Halfords, B&Q's, Texas, Motor World's, A1 Motor Stores, up and down the UK. And one of the things that the company did was to invest to market the product, to build the brand, to enable more people to want, in terms of the retailers, to want to buy the product. So one of the things that we did was to undertake a PR campaign. Now the PR campaign was to talk about, when you do a public relations campaign, we did a press release, and a press release was to send out a press ad to all the newspapers up and down the country, and how you would reach those and get a list of all those newspapers up and down the country was to buy a copy of the newspaper listings called Brad. And Brad had a listing of all the newspaper email addresses, phone numbers, contact numbers of all the newspapers companies up and down the UK, including national, local, regional, and so on and so forth. And there were thousands. And to send out a press release, it would be one standard press release. So you would talk about one story in terms of what you were doing. You would have a photo, you put it on a page, and it would go in an envelope, and you would have to have all the names and addresses, put a label on the envelope, and then have a A4 sheet with a photograph of it, and then put it in the envelope, and then send it off to the editor. And this was done, but it was one message, and it was sent to all the newspapers. Well, we didn't know, you would obviously monitor that as well, so you would use tracking services to find out where you'd got free press, and then you could monetize that free press in terms of how much it could potentially be worth. And that's on the basis that you're assuming that the press that you're getting is positive and not negative. And so with one message that would normally go out, it would be one message. But now with digital media and e-marketing communications, the PR can be personalized for each market, target market within different segments of your customers. So for instance, if you wanted to do a PR campaign on Facebook of specific users of preferences, then what you would tailor make that PR message to those people watching that Facebook channel with specific preferences. So this then leads to your PR being very agile and proactive and very diverse, and looking at specifically who exactly are your target customers, and then tailor making that PR message to what you wanted to achieve to those customers. So it's a case study here. Goal setting and tracking for interactive marketing communication, campaign insight, segmentation and targeting, offer message development and create, budget, selecting the digital media mix, integration into overall media schedule or plan. So in your groups, when you're doing various exercises with myself, so one of the things that you can do in your group is terms of a digital e-marketing campaign is goal setting. What are your goals? We'll come on to what potential goals could be later on. And tracking for interactive marketing communications. What is your campaign insight? How are you segmenting the market? And in that segmentation, who are you targeting? What is the offer? The message development and creative design. What about budgeting? How much are you budgeting towards this? And seeing, the selected digital media mix, integration into the overall media schedule or plan. Okay, so this is something as well that you need to be thinking about. So when we look at terminology for measuring digital campaigns, we can see at the bottom step, we're looking at unique visitors, and then we're looking at the conversion rate. The next letter, step 2, we're looking at the cost per click, and then CPA, the cost per acquisition, campaign, return on investment, ROI, branding metrics, step 5, and then step 6 is the lifetime value of the customer. So these are the measures used for setting campaign objectives or assessing campaign success, increasingly in sophistication from bottom to top. Now this is very important as well. So when you're looking at your e-marketing campaign and you have a website, you really want to get to people ideally to come onto your website, and then really to go through your website, and then to make a sale. But the question really is, if you're paying for this digital media, how much is this digital media going to cost, and what do you need to do? So what we really look for, if we work from the top down, are the number of thousand impacts, and how many thousand impacts are going to ultimately lead to a final sale. Because once you've worked out the number of impact, the number of thousand impacts, and the number from those thousand impacts that will lead to a sale, you can then work out the cost per thousand impacts. And if you can work out the cost per thousand impacts, then ultimately you can work out the cost per sale from a cost per thousand impacts. So then this will enable you, if you're using other mediums and other media, you can work out what the cost per thousand impacts will be, and if you average out that the cost per thousand impacts will lead to a certain percentage of take-up of sales, then you can ultimately work out the cost per sale. If you work out the cost per sale in terms of your advertising budget or your e-marketing budget, then you will be able to determine if this is profitable or not. And if it's not profitable, then you need to reduce the cost per thousand impacts. So if we look at the top and we look at the reach in terms of e-communications, we have, if we say that we have ad impressions of 21,700,000 ad impressions, and the media cost to with a take up of 0.23% click-through rate, we can see that if we are getting 21,700,000 page impressions, and it's costing us £700,000, then the cost per thousand ad impressions are going to be £32.26, which represents 700,000 divided by 21,700,000, which gives you approximately 31 to 32 cost per thousand ad impressions. And when we're looking at ad impressions, now ad impressions are different to clicks on a website. We're not saying that there are 21,700,000 people who've actually clicked on your website. No, we're saying in terms of the reach, in terms of e-communications and different e-communication apps and models and processes, if it's PR, if it's a Facebook, if it's LinkedIn that you're using, if it's pay per click, all these added up together, what are going to be the number of ad impressions, and how much is that costing you? So the ad impressions are X number of times people have seen your site. So if we say that 21,700,000, then we are ultimately saying that people could see your ad or your product more than one times. So if there's X number of people and there are 21 21,700,000 ad impressions, you can work out the number of times people have actually seen your ad. So again, if you're doing a bus back campaign, for instance, and you take let's say a specific area of a bus depot, and a bus depot in, say, Croydon has for example 1,000 buses, you would take 15 to 20% of buses in Croydon that go around the local Croydon area, and either take the side, advertise on the side of the buses or the back of the bus, and then the impressions, the number of times people will see your ad over a period of 1 month would be approximately 30 times at a 20% rate. So you know then, so you work it down, so you know that someone would see your ad approximately 30 times, and that's predominantly what you'll be aiming for. You'll be aiming for a 20% catchment of a given area for the retailers that are stocking your product in that area, so people who are shopping in that area seeing these ads at least 30 times over a period of 1 month. Likewise, with the reach and ad impressions, it's 21,700,000, so people will see it more than 1 times, probably 10, 15, 20 times, depending upon the number of people. So if we know that this is costing you, in terms of ad impressions, cost per 1,000 ad impressions is £32.26. And then we can see that if we look at the clicks, approximately equivalent to visitors, and then this is going to cost approximately £14 per click. So this is now people from the ad impressions coming on to visit your site. So from the 21,700,000 ad impressions, where X number of people have seen it X number of times, then you're getting from those costs per 1,000 ad impressions, you're getting 50,000 clicks, 50,000 people have come onto, individual people have come onto your site. And then the cost per click then is going to be averaged to £14. And the conversion rate is represented at 33% in terms of getting a quote, click to quote. And then if we see how this then leads to leads to an opportunity generated, which we haven't. So we've got the click to quote, and then here's the opportunity now. So from those 50,000 clicks, we're saying that 33.4% of a conversion rate to an opportunity response. So even though it's costing £14 per click, £14 times 50,000 gives you £700,000 cost. And then from those 50,000 clicks, you're getting a conversion rate to opportunity generated of 33%, which represents 16,700. And that 16,700 is an opportunity response. So the cost per opportunity is obviously going to be £41.92. So £41.92 times the 16,700 would give you £700,000. And then what we're saying is that there's a conversion rate, efficiency rate of 10.6%. So from those people, so from those 50,000 that clicked, that led on to a 33% conversion rate to leads opportunities generated, which led to 16,700. And then from those 16,700, we're saying there was a 10% conversion rate, 10 to a number of outcomes delivered. So 10% of 16,700 led to 1,770 sales. So the cost per sale in terms of all this media is £395. So £395 times 1,770 sales gives you a media cost as in the top of £700,000. So we can see how this all comes down. So now, if £395 costs per sale in terms of the amount of media spend that you are incurring, giving you the number of ad impressions that you need to filter down to clicks, and then to opportunities generated, and then to the final point of your number of outcomes, your number of sales. Now you might say £395 may or may not seem to be expensive. It really depends on the cost of your product. If your product is a £5,000 kitchen, then £395 for these sales in a competitive marketplace might be a good purchase, might be a good buy. But let's say that this was too high. Then if this was too high and you're not getting the correct conversion rates, then maybe you need to review your cost per 1,000 impressions. But if you worked this through and you looked at it, and then you would see that if you just took the cost per 1,000 impressions, it actually works out to be the cost per 1,000 impressions at £395. It basically costs you will get 2.3 customers. 2.3 customers. So in other words, can you justify that marketing and media spend? And if you can't, then you need to get the cost down. You need to still get the X number of ad impressions to get you the clicks, opportunities generated, and then final sales. But then if it's costing you £395, you need to get that down to, depending upon your product range and depending upon your profit margins, I would suggest that would need to come down. So you would need to review what you're doing and how you're doing it and how much you're paying. But if it's a high ticket item, then maybe you could substantiate this cost. Okay. So campaign response mechanisms. When we look at the campaign response mechanisms, we have the online media creative, and then you have the home page, microsite, landing page. Because sometimes you don't always land on the home page, depending upon the keywords. It could take to certain pages. So company social media presence, personal chat or callback. If you offer this, and offline, phone, post, store. So a range of response mechanisms, from the online media. This is all going to affect how effective your e-commerce and e-marketing is. Online response mechanisms. The required response mechanism should be specified in a digital campaign plan, and the number of responses, from each model. Previous figure suggests the typical options of outcomes to online campaign media, from the creative shown using media such as display ad, pay-per-click. So we look at the home page, microsite landing page, personal, chat or callback, offline, phone or store. Even if you look at the Microsoft landing page, if you could even market different pages by putting keywords and meta tags on different pages, and by putting meta tags in different pages you can actually get high up in the search engine, but you may not get the home page. You may actually get other pages from your website being searched and landed upon. Personalized chatback. You see lots of very easy to integrate with most websites now, a chatback service. It's an easy plug-in feature, and if you've got someone there and someone lands on your website, then the person who can be at home can see this and then can offer to provide you with some more information or a callback. Offline, because part of the campaign is run online, does not mean that offline responses should be excluded. Offline response mechanisms should not be discarded unless the cost of managing them cannot be justified, which is really the case. So just to recap then what we've covered today, we've kind of reviewed communication characteristics, managing a digital campaign, and online and offline communication. So thank you today from Mr. Tan.